Angeles court, former American football star and actor OJ Simpson stood accused of murdering his ex-wife Nicole and waiter Ron Goldman in a bloody knife attack.
Action find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187.
The verdict divided America and the world. In the eyes of many, despite his repeated protestations of innocence, he was and remains a guilty man. But the world has not been told the full story. Tonight, this film reveals that the evidence heard in court was only part of the real picture. It also reveals that clues which pointed away from Simpson as the killer were dismissed or ignored. It shows that crucial evidence was tampered with and destroyed, that the police so contaminated the crime scene that the evidence was unsafe. And it reveals that there is a potential suspect, a close member of Simpson's family who has never been questioned, and that 6 months before her murder, someone was offered money to kill Nicole. This is OJ, the untold story. At around 10:30 p.m. on the night of the 12th of June 1994, OJ Simpson was a man without an alibi. Was he chipping golf balls in his backyard as he claimed? Or was he driving to Nicole's house in a white Ford Bronco to commit a grisly double murder? At 875 South Bundy Drive, in the comfortable suburbs of West Los Angeles, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman lay murdered with multiple stab wounds. They were discovered shortly after midnight.
When I looked at the bodies, this to me was a rage killing. There were numerous apparent slash wounds, stab wounds. They appeared to be all over the bodies. One of the victims had what we call bled out, if you will. The wounds were so severe, and that was Nicole Brown. She was lying on a walkway that angled down towards the street, and the blood was flowing in that direction.
This is a crime of passion, overkill, jealousy, domestic, something of that nature. Rage, yes, absolutely. I mean, this alone shows you bang, 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 bang. Those murders were ghastly. They were awful murders. I mean, Nicole Simpson had a slash of her throat that went all the way down into the vertebral column, 3 millimeters into the vertebral column.
The detectives that arrived at Nicole's house on Bundy Drive in the early hours of the morning faced a forensic jigsaw puzzle. There was a left-handed leather glove covered in blood, bloody footprints, and 5 drops of blood heading away from the scene to the rear of the property.
Here it's pretty obvious what happened. There was a struggle. The left glove came off during the struggle. The left hand or the left side of this perpetrator's body was injured. And as that person moved away, they bled.
There was also an envelope containing a pair of glasses, which they later found Ron Goldman had come to deliver to Nicole. 35-year-old Nicole had been divorced from O.J. Simpson for 2 years. With 2 children together, Sydney and Justin, they had been fated as the perfect mixed-race couple. But their relationship had broken down, despite numerous reconciliations. And since her divorce, Nicole had begun to live life in the fast lane.
I think within the last year plus of her life, I think she blew a fuse. I mean, something happened. And I guess, you know, the drugs would do that, you know. Here she is one moment, a faithful wife, dedicated, you know, loving. The next, like I said, the rumors you hear, she's doing coke or she's sleeping around, and it was the whole thing, man. It was very sad.
On the evening of the murder, Nicole had gone to see her daughter Sydney dancing in a school show. Simpson was also there. He'd heard that day that his affair with girlfriend Paula Barbieri was over. After the show, Simpson went home, while Nicole went on to a family dinner at the fashionable Mezzaluna restaurant where Ron Goldman worked as a waiter. Nicole was a frequent visitor. Since her divorce, she had become involved with various men from the restaurant. And 6'1", 25-year-old Goldman was rumored to be a boyfriend. He had been to her house and been seen driving her Ferrari. Nicole and the children had returned home by 9:15. When detectives arrived, candles were alight, there was music playing, and a bath was still warm. Rod Englert faced the task of trying to reconstruct what happened.
Nobody will ever know what was in her mind when she walked out, because she left her front door open, walked a few feet down the landing, down the steps where the attack occurred, and she was stabbed 4 times in the left side of the neck. The evidence suggests that Ron Goldman walked up and he is then attacked, and a struggle between the two, a confrontation between the two occurs in her blood that's already bleeding. So she had to be down for her blood to bleed to the extent that it already bled.
But if Nicole went down quickly, the forensic evidence showed that Ron Goldman was involved in a violent struggle.
He's struggling, he's fighting, he's twisting, he's turning, he's doing everything that he can to survive, and the other person is doing everything that he can to quieten him and kill him. And the best way to silence someone, one has to know that you sever the throat. And that's a kill.
Tom Lang and 3 other detectives then went up to Simpson's house, a 5-minute drive away on Rockingham Avenue. He had to be informed, but as the ex-husband, he was also a potential suspect. On their arrival, Detective Mark Furman told his colleagues that he'd found a speck of blood on the door of Simpson's white Ford Bronco, which was parked outside. The detectives then went on to the property and found that Simpson had left for Chicago a few hours before at 11 p.m. During their search of the house, Detective Furman said he found a right-handed glove covered in blood.
Well, Furman had been to Bundy. It's not too difficult to put 2 and 2 together. It's still 4. He sees what appears to be a matching glove, and it's a right-handed glove. This now becomes a crime scene.
As dawn broke, the police said they found spots of Simpson's blood on the drive of his house and in the entrance hall. Simpson was now the prime suspect. A few hours later, Detective Bert Looper supervised the search for more clues.
In particular, the bedroom I wanted to see was the master bedroom, which was OJ's. And I have the photographer take several photographs before we even go in, one of which indicated some socks in front of the bed on the floor.
At first, no one noticed that the socks were bloody, but later analysis showed otherwise.
When those socks were examined with high-intensity light, there was a lot of blood, because around the ankle of one of them was 19 projected spatters of blood all the way around. And there were 39 on the other. That came back to Nicole Brown Simpson's blood, and it was projected. That's the key. Those socks were present when they're fighting in that particular area. That's probably one of the strongest pieces of evidence in this whole case, is that pair of socks.
Simpson flew back from Chicago to face a house full of police and a story that was breaking all over the world. The detectives in charge of the case, Tom Lang and partner Phil Van Atta, immediately spotted what they thought was a vital clue.
We not only wanted a statement from him, an attempt to glean inconsistencies down the road, but his hand was bleeding. And guess which hand? His left hand.
OJ, what can you say about this? Back up, please. Get out of the way. Get back here.
Well, we have a good shot at getting this evidence, and that hand is no evidence, because we know our killer is probably injured on the left side of their body, and guess what else we have? We have a left-handed glove at the crime scene, and he's got his left finger cut. We got the finger photographed, he cooperated, we also got his blood. And during the interview, you get these inconsistencies that we eventually got. He says he bled all over. But how? Well, first it's on the phone, he believes, and then it was in some other way. He cuts himself all the time. When did you park your Bronco on Rockingham where we found it? I think during a 32 or 33-minute interview, I got 3 different answers.
OJ, are you a suspect? David, I told you before he wasn't going to say anything. I know you got to ask.
While the detectives built their case, Simpson was released to face the media frenzy.
I was convinced then that he is definitely a viable suspect, but I wasn't 100%. Phil was 100%. But I also knew, handling high-profile cases in the past, that we better be damn sure. But as we went through the investigation, subsequent to the interview, everything fell in line. There was nothing exculpatory. There was nothing that pointed in another direction. Everything pointed one direction, and that was at Simpson.
For the police, a key discovery was that Simpson had a history of abusive attacks on Nicole, both during their marriage and after they had divorced. There were also suggestions that Simpson had stalked her. The evidence seemed overwhelming. 4 days after the murders, the police issued a warrant for Simpson's arrest, but he didn't surrender as promised.
Mr. Simpson is a wanted murder suspect, 2 counts of murder, a terrible crime.